بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين، حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم محمد. وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المكرمين، سيما الإمام المبين وغياث المضطر المستكين والكهف الحصين، مولانا وسيدنا وولي نعمتنا الحجة بن الحسن، فداه أرواح العالمين. السلام على غريب الغرباء، السلام على شهيد الشهداء، السلام على ساكن كربلاء، السلام على خامس أصحاب الكساء، السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين جميعا، ورحمة الله وبركاته. قال الله العظيم في محكم كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، انظر كيف كان عاقبة المكذبين. And look at the outcome, at the fate of the rejectors. And in another verse Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, انظر كيف كان عاقبة المفسدين. And look at the fate of the corrupt ones. آمنا بالله صدق الله العلي العظيم. Please recite aloud salawat. You know why history repeats itself? Because people keep bumping into the same fixed laws that cannot be bypassed or changed, and then see the same results and face the same outcome. This is why it's imperative that we study the lives of the people in the past, to examine their flaws and see the outcome of their actions. Because we only get to live in this world once. We will not be given another chance. But we have to study their lives not from the prism of a historian, but from the perspective of someone that wants to learn, draw the lessons and apply them to his or her life. Now, one particularly interesting case is the people of Kufa. How they lived, how they behaved, what their traits were, and the outcome of their actions. This case is very relevant to ours. We need to study it thoroughly and look at their flaws, some of the solutions to the problems that they faced, and the outcome that they faced. But before I mention their traits, let me make a statement. Ashura is an opportunity to get to know Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. When we get to know him, we will fall in love with him. And an opportunity to get to know the Lord of Hussein, whom Hussein fell in love with and sacrificed everything for. And get to know Ashura and all the valuable lessons embedded in this saga. And get to know ourselves. Believe me, brothers and sisters, we still don't know ourselves. And get to know the struggle between evil and good, so that we know what our position is in this struggle. And therefore, we need to study the people of Kufa. The first trait that they had was that they failed to realize that this life is a big test, and every challenge in it, And every problem that we face in this world is part of that test. These crossroads has been designed to see how we act, how we do, whether we pass this test or not. And if we pass this test, what's the mark? What's the grade that we get? After the martyrdom of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, Lady Zainab was taken as captive to the city of Kufa. But she still had the confidence to give a fiery sermon. She mopped the people of Kufa with the floor, although she was bereaved. She had lost her children, her brothers, the companions of her brothers. She was alone. She had witnessed all the tragedy on the day of Ashura, but she was courageous and brave enough to say the truth. One man who was there and listened to her sermon said that as if it was Ali ibn Abi Talib talking, when Ali was the ruler in the city of Kufa. This is how courageous Zainab was. One of the things that she said to the people of Kufa, she said to them that we were tested, and our test was you, the people of Kufa. You were tested, O people of Kufa, and we were your test. We passed the test, but you failed miserably. إنما مثلكم كمثل التي نقضت غزلها من بعد قوة. You have failed that test. Now, if we look at our problems through this perspective, through this prism, it will change the way we behave. It will change the way we look at things. If we look at the challenges we face through this prism, the way the companions of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam did, it will change everything. Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas, the way he dealt with the whole saga, indicates that he knew that this was a test and he wanted to get a good mark, a perfect mark. He knew that in the future, millions of people will focus on every move, on every step that he took on the day of Ashura. He refused to drink from the water, although by not drinking from the water, he did not quench the thirst of Abu Abdullah. But he wanted to get a full mark. He sympathized with Abu Abdullah. How can I drink from that water when Hussein is still thirsty? And millions of people come today to listen to his story and cry for his tragedy and curse the oppressors that deprived them from water. This is how they viewed Ashura. This is how they viewed life. Now, when we are presented with a challenge, when we are presented with a problem, the problem is specifically designed to see how you react. When there is a dispute between you and your spouse, when there is a disagreement between you and your brother, when you face a problem in life, a tribulation in this world, it's so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you a mark to see how you react to that problem. Now, certain companies have taken advantage of this trait and they perfected it. Companies like Uber, they put this system in place called the review system. They know, the drivers, the employees of Uber, they know that everything that they do, every word that they say, their behavior will be reflected directly to their profile. It will become a review. People will leave comments on their profile. That's why, with all due respect to all the employees of Uber, that's why you see them treat the passengers very politely, very kindly, with utmost respect, very friendly. If you have a piece of luggage, they won't let you touch that piece of luggage. They won't let you do anything. You just have to be pleased. They're the biggest people pleasers. They're actors. we know for a fact that when they go back home, this is not how they treat their family and children. Because no one's going to leave a review or a comment or rate their behavior with their family and children. But while they're working, they know that their behavior will impact their job and their financial status. So they're looking for the 5-star rating. This is why they behave well. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is monitoring our every move. He is the one that designs these problems. He is the one that creates these challenges for us. Otherwise, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't want to give us headache. He just wants to see how you react, how you behave. That's why when we look at our problems through this prism, and by thinking and taking into consideration that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to give us a mark, we'll treat this problem differently. And this is how the Imams, the companions of the Imams, managed to navigate their way in life and tackle these challenges. Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam was sitting, his 18-year-old son, who was well fit, there was nothing wrong with him, suddenly he drops dead. He drops dead. So the Imam, when the woman began to wail and cry, he said, أَقْسَمَ عَلَيْهِنَّ أَنْ لَا يَصْرِخْنَ. He said, I ask you by God's name not to yell, not to wail. The Imam is determined, but he wants his family to pass this test and to get a full mark as well. And then the Imam came to pray Salatul Janazah on him. He said, Alhamdulillah, الذي يقتل أولادنا فلا نزداد له إلا حبا. Even though Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is the one that takes their souls. He is the one that, this is the word that the Imam used, kills our children. And yet, this increases our love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He wants to get a full mark. Not only He's patient in the face of this tragedy, He is pleased with God's decree. He gives His full consent. And this is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward him. We are not rewarded for the tribulations that we go through. We go through these tribulations because of our bad deeds. مَا أَصَابَكُم مِّن مُصِيبَةٍ فَمِمَّا كَسَبَتْ أَيْدِيكُم. But we will be rewarded for the patience that we display in the face of these tragedies. So the first thing that the people of Kufa failed to realize is that this life is a test. They are being tested, and it was a major test. And the Quran is filled with verses about being tested and about being tried and about tribulations and how people in the past reacted and how most of the people, the majority of the people in the past, they failed in their test. And let's see how you will do in that test. He created you to see أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. That's the first trait that they had, failing to realize that this life is a test. The second trait that they had was that they were swimming with the current. And this is a tendency that we all have. We want to go with the flow. The tide takes us wherever it wants. When everyone is with Hussein, they all pledge their allegiance to Hussein alayhi salam. With Muslim ibn Aqil, 20,000 people in the city of Kufa, the first day came to the Grand Mosque and they gave their allegiance to Hussein through Muslim ibn Aqil. But when the tide shifted, they all became against Hussein alayhi salam. And this is so relevant to us today. In a lot of communities, we see people become religious if everyone else is religious. If there is an atmosphere inviting us to become religious. But if people choose not to be religious, abandon their religion, abandon their faith, then people tend to swim with the current. And the problem with this is, first of all, they will always change course. They might be religious today, but tomorrow who knows? Because their intention is to be with everyone else, to be with the majority, and that's very dangerous. And the second issue is that we lose our sense of independency. We will become like a sheep directed by the shepherd. As the shepherd says, they follow, they go. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about the time when the Qibla was changed. For years, all the years that the Prophet was in Mecca, and then when he migrated to Medina for several years, all the Muslims faced Jerusalem. They prayed towards Masjid al-Aqsa. Now there were people that followed the Prophet and faced Jerusalem because other religions, Abrahamic religions like Christianity, namely Christianity and Judaism, they prayed towards Jerusalem. But all of a sudden, out of the blue, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends Archangel Gabriel to command the Prophet while he was praying, while he was facing Jerusalem, to face the Kaaba. And there is a mosque in the holy city of Medina called Masjidul Qiblatayn. You could see there was a writing, an inscription on the wall that engraved the verses pertaining to this incident. Unfortunately, the Wahhabis have now destroyed that, the inscription, not the mosque. Masjidul Qiblatayn. The reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did that is mentioned in the Quran, is to see whether you're following the Prophet because he represents the truth, because he is a prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or because he is with the majority, with everyone else, following the other Abrahamic religions. No. We are independent. And to see whether you follow the Prophet, then we chose to change the direction of the Qibla. From now on, you have to pray towards the Kaaba. And the Kaaba belonged to the Arabs, so it wasn't something that the people, really enjoyed, people from other religions. So this was a major test for Muslims. And some people abandoned their faith and their religion because of this test. And the people of Kufa had this problem. I follow the majority. I swim with the current. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in numerous verses in the Quran, He criticizes the majority. وَأَكْثَرُهُمْ لِلْحَقِّ كَارِهُونَ. The majority of the people don't like the truth. The majority of the people don't like to follow God. The majority of the people don't like to be religious. So even if you have to side with the minority, and sometimes the minority, like the time of the Prophet when he was in Mecca, it was 10 people against hundreds of thousands of people. This doesn't give you a lot of confidence to side with him, but you have to think straight and you have to be independent of other factors. If he represents the truth, and this is what I have to do. This applies to us today. You should think independently and follow the truth wherever it may lie, even if the majority is against the truth, even if you have to side with the minority, even if you have to go against your family. Your family are not religious, and they want you to participate in the sins that they commit in their gatherings, mixed gatherings, what have you. Imam Ali alayhi salam says that in the different battles of the Prophet, we had to sometimes side against our own parents, our own children, our own siblings. So, even if you have to side with the minority, and by minority, in the case of the people of Kufa, I mean Muslim Aqeel alone. The Prophet famously said to Ammar, Ya Ammar, if you see Ali ibn Abi Talib entering inside the valley, and everyone else is entering inside a different valley, follow Ali ibn Abi Talib, because the truth is with him. The truth rotates around Ali ibn Abi Talib, and Ali ibn Abi Talib rotates around the axis of the truth. The other problem that they had was that they were very short-sighted. This is why they were obsessed with this dunya. Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam famously said, الناس عبيد الدنيا والدين لعق على ألسنتهم فإذا محصوا بالبلاء قل الديانون. They were too obsessed with this dunya because to them this dunya was everything. They couldn't see the hereafter. Umar ibn Sa'd, the Imam, privately talked to him one night prior to Ashura. He was the commander-in-chief who killed Abu Abdullah. He was a distant relative of Hussein alayhi salam. The Imam privately sat with him. Ya Umar ibn Sa'd, don't you know me? Don't you know my father? Don't you know my grandfather? He said, Ya Hussein, I know everything. But the Emir threatened to confiscate my house, my business. The Imam said that I will remunerate you. I will compensate for any loss that you face. Then he recited the poem. He said that, because this is the method that was used by Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad, the carrot and the stick. He threatened the people that you either be with me and I will increase your wage, your allowance, give you money. Or if you choose to be against me with Hussein, you will face persecution. I will imprison you. I will kill you. And unfortunately, when it comes to money, people are weak. There is a famous hadith by Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam that says that if you see someone that looks like a mu'min, don't be fooled by his appearance. Don't judge him by his appearance. Wait till you see a beautiful woman pass by. See if he looks at her. This is one of the tests that we face, the sexual desire. But if you see that this man lowered his gaze and did look at her, some people, maybe due to age or maybe because they're looking for the greater good. They want to be respected by the society, not for God. They want to be respected by the society. They choose to lower their gaze, not look at the opposite gender lustfully. The Imam says, wait. Don't judge a book by its cover. Wait to see how he reacts towards money. When it comes to money, people are sometimes weak. We had a scholar who used to say that my piety is worth 50,000 tomans. He was from Mashhad, Iran. They say, why? They said, why? He said, because I was asked to testify against someone, against the truth. I refused, so they told me, we'll give you 10,000. I refused. 20,000, I refused. They said 50,000, I refused, so they left me. Now I know that my taqwa is worth 50,000 tomans. I'm not sure if they had offered anything more than that, would I've, be deceived or not? I'm not sure of that. They say that there was a judge. The people complained to that judge in a city about a man who buried a dog inside the cemetery of the Muslims. So they came complaining that this guy buried the dog next to Muslims in the cemetery. So the judge summoned that guy. He said, did you bury a dog in the cemetery of the Muslims? He said, yes, it was in accordance to his will, to the will of the dog. So the judge said, are you making fun of me? He said, no, and in that will, he also said that I should give you 1,000 golden dinars. So the judge straight away said, Rahmatullahi alayh. So they said that you just were telling him that a dog is najis. How can you bury a najis inside a cemetery of Muslims? He said that I looked into his lineage. I found out that he's from the descendants of the dog of the cave, Ashab al-Kahf. So money changes everything. With money, people change. You buy loyalty with money. They say that a group of people, Muawiyah used to buy the loyalty of the companions of Amir al-Mu'mineen with money. So he summoned a group of people. He gave each one of them 100,000 dirhams, silver coins. So when they left, one of the guys came back. He returned to Muawiyah. He said, you gave my friends 100,000 dirhams each and you gave me 80,000. Why is that? He said, because with this 20,000, I bought their religion. But for you, I didn't buy your religion. So if I command you to do something that goes against your religion, you're excused. He said, for 20,000, I would sell my wife. So unfortunately, people are like this. إِذَا مُحَّصُوا بِالْبَلَاءِ قَلَّ الدَّيَّانُونَ. And this is a test that we face as well, brothers and sisters. So they were short-sighted, unfortunately. Their scope was limited to this dunya. They didn't see the hereafter. And they faced the outcome, the unfortunate outcome. And the other trait that they had was that they took all the ni'am, all the blessings of God for granted. One day Amir al-Mu'mineen was your leader. He gave them freedom. Not one person was poor under the rule of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Freedom, wisdom, knowledge, everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had given Amir al-Mu'mineen. Amir al-Mu'mineen was giving them everything. Unfortunately, they took that for granted. They thought that these na'am are there to stay. But because they squandered these na'am, because they did not appreciate these na'am, Allah took them away. Let me give you just a small example. Amir al-Mu'mineen did not have a single political prisoner. People were free to curse the ruler. People were free to slander the ruler, to talk against him, to take to the streets, rally, protest against him, say whatever they want to say, as long as the Muslims were safe. They didn't harm Muslims. So one day the Imam is sitting in the mosque is filled to capacity. The Imam is talking, one of the Kharijites, he interrupts the speech of the Imam. He says that you have no right to rule over us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the ultimate ruler. So the Imam stopped speaking and he wanted to talk again. Then another guy, a third guy, a fourth guy, a fifth guy. It was a plot to undermine the Imam's authority. So Malik al-Ashtar, everyone who were there, they could have taken action against these people. But the Imam said that you have 3 rights upon us. First of all, you're allowed to come to the mosque, even though mosques back then, or the mosque of Kufa was like the Parliament House, or the White House today. This is where the Imam ruled and commanded the army. Secondly, you're allowed to do everything that you want as long as the Muslims are safe. And number 3, we have to give you your monthly allowance. He funds their campaign against himself. One day, the commander of the Imam's army, Malik al-Ashtar, was walking in the marketplace of Kufa when a man unknowingly, he threw a date on Malik al-Ashtar, threw it at him and started laughing. So the people who were there said to him, did you know who this man is? He said, no, I don't care. They said, this is Malik al-Ashtar, the commander-in-chief of Amir al-Mu'mineen's army. So the guy was so scared that Malik al-Ashtar could kill him. So he followed Malik al-Ashtar. Malik al-Ashtar entered inside the Grand Mosque of Kufa. He went to beg Malik al-Ashtar to pardon him, to kiss his feet. Malik al-Ashtar said, by God, the reason why I came to the mosque is to pray 2 rak'at to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive you. Now only 1 decade later, Ziyad ibn Abih became the governor of Muawiyah in Kufa. While he was on the minbar, a man shot him with a pebble, small pebble, threw it at him. Ziyad ibn Abih ordered all the doors of the mosque to be closed. The mosque was filled to capacity. He wanted to identify the one that threw the pebble. Who is it? No one dared to say it was me. So he said that I don't know who it was in person, but I'm sure it was from this corner. So he ordered 70 men, their hands and legs to be severed because of throwing a pebble. I was in Paris a couple of years ago, commuting in a train. I saw a group of teenagers that were talking in French. I don't speak French. And they were holding a can of beer, each one of them. So I overheard one of them who, after sipping the alcohol, said, Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah. So I realized that he is from an Arab nation, Arab majority country. Perhaps from North Africa, because there is a significant number of Arabs that live in France. They were probably born in France. But then when, different things happened in France, I thought to myself, that these people did not appreciate the ni'am that they had. They have the freedom, the chance to express themselves, to be religious, to do whatever they want, but they did not appreciate these ni'am, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took away these ni'ams from them. When secularism was imposed on them and hijab was banned, we condemn that step, but we think that it's because of their lack of appreciation of the ni'am of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Amir al-Mu'mineen lived amongst you. He used to deliver a sermon every day. He made himself accessible to you. They did not appreciate these ni'am. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answered the dua of Amir al-Mu'mineen in relation to them. Allahumma abdilni khayran minhum wa abdilhum sharran minni. Oh God, let them see tyrants and rulers so that they would appreciate the rule of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. Muslim ibn Aqil. 20,000 people based on a conservative estimate of the number that pledged their allegiance to him in the mosque of Kufa. Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad comes to the city of Kufa. This tyrant, he was only 28, but he was a real tyrant. Imam al-Hussein says that he was a bastard and a son of a bastard. Both him and his father were born out of wedlock. And this is reflected on the behavior and the character of that man, that vicious man. He was the governor of Muawiyah in Kufa, in Basra. He killed 2 innocent women and dragged their bodies in the roads and streets of Basra. So now he assumes power. And he began to threaten the people. Anyone that sides with Hussein will be killed. An entire army is coming from Sham. And this was one of the things that they failed to see. The verse in the Quran is loud and clear. وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهِ. Whoever fears Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and acts accordingly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala سَيَجْعَلْ لَهُ مِنْ أَمْرِهِ مَخْرَجًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will deliver the solution, will give you this, will save you. Just fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Act accordingly. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's ability and powers is much more than what we think. Maybe based on your calculations, nothing can save you, but God can. وَيَرْزُقْهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبْ. So he began to threaten the masses. One by one, they began to abandon Muslim ibn Aqil until the last day or the last evening that he was in Kufa. He used to lead the congregational prayer in Masjid al-Kufa. When he finished Salatul Isha, he looked behind him and there was absolutely no one praying behind him. They all left him. They all abandoned him. Even his host. He doesn't know where to go. So he began walking in the alleys of Kufa, not knowing where to go, until he got tired. He stopped. He was standing there in one of the alleys of Kufa when a woman came out of a house. She saw a stranger standing by her door. She said to him that, "Do you need help? Do you need anything? You're standing by my door." He said, "I'm thirsty." So she goes and brings him a cup of water. He drinks from that water, gives the cup back. She goes back inside, only to come out again moments later to see him still standing there. She said to him that, "You're a stranger. I don't feel safe with you near the entrance, near my door. Don't you have a tribe that you belong to?" Because it wasn't common for a stranger to enter inside the city without knowing anyone. "Do you belong to a specific tribe?" He said, "Yes." "Who's your tribe?" He said, "Bani Hashim." "Bani Hashim?" "Yes." "Are you related to Ali ibn Abi Talib, who was the king here?" He said, "Yes, he's my uncle." "Your uncle? Do you have a place to go to?" He said, "No." "Who are you?" "I am Muslim." "Muslim ibn Aqil, the ambassador of Hussein to the people of Kufa?" He said, "Yes." So she realized that everyone abandoned him. He's all alone. She was aware of the prize that was allocated by Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad to locate the whereabouts of Muslim ibn Aqil, to arrest him, to kill him. So she said to him, please come inside. He goes inside the house of this woman, thanking her, Jazakillah khaira. May Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam intercede on the day of judgment for you. He goes inside, she brings him food, but he doesn't eat anything. He spends the night worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then she tells him that I'm waiting for my son. I don't want to tell my son that you're here, because I'm not sure what he'll do. Because the prize is 1,000 golden dinars. 1,000 golden dinars was the amount that the son of this woman grabbed in exchange for eternal damnation. 1,000 golden dinars. Now, nowadays when we see what happened back then, we say, may God curse him. But we are faced with similar challenges. When we make money from illegitimate sources and eat, make it food and then eat, this becomes part of our flesh and blood. The same thing happens to us as well, the same test. But it's not as big as the test that that man was faced with. Until that boy comes, that man, the child of that woman. He sees his mother going to the basement and coming up, taking food there. He says to her, what's the story? She says, no, nothing. He insists, he wants to go downstairs. She tells him that, let me tell you a secret, with the condition of not telling anyone. Muslim ibn Aqil is in our house. He's in the basement. Immediately, the son started to think about the prize. But it was in the middle of the night. He couldn't go to the palace. The woman goes to the basement. She says to him, Ya Muslim, why aren't you sleeping? Why aren't you eating? He said, yes, I took a nap and I saw my uncle Ali. And he said to me, Al-Waha, Al-Waha. Tomorrow you'll be our guest. I think this is my final night. I want to spend the night praying and worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Immediately after dawn, the son goes to the palace. He meets with Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad. He says to him that I know where Muslim is. Where is he? He's in our house. So Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad immediately sends a battalion, 200 armed men under the command of Husayn ibn Numayr, to raid the house of Taw'a. She was an ordinary woman, but now she's immortalized. Everyone remembers her. He sends a battalion. Muslim ibn Aqil prays Salat al-Subuh. Then they hear the sound of horses approaching. Muslim ibn Aqil has ghira. He doesn't allow the men to raid the house. So he goes outside. He tells the woman, Jazakillah khaira, I have to leave now. He goes outside. He's confronted by 200 armed men, all riding horses, while Muslim ibn Aqil doesn't have a horse. But he's courageous. He's so brave because of his iman, because of his belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you have iman, you can take these big steps. Otherwise, you become weak. So he fights, they engage. He fights them courageously. Reporters say that he used to grab the legs of some of the soldiers and throw them at the rooftops of the houses. But the people, unfortunately, the same people that pledged their allegiance with the Muslim ibn Aqil now are fighting against Muslim ibn Aqil. And look at how low they got to. They started throwing fire at Muslim ibn Aqil from the rooftops. If you want to fight, fight like a man. Why throw fire at him? But they couldn't subdue him. 200 armed men against one person, they couldn't subdue him, and he was able to kill some of the soldiers. Husayn ibn Numayr he dispatches one of the soldiers to go and ask for backup from Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad. Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad says, what's the story? 200 against one man, you can't defeat him? Husayn ibn Numayr says, tell Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad that you haven't sent me to fight an ordinary man. He is a sword, one of the swords of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Sayfun min suyuf al Abi Talib. Send me back up. So he sends him back up, and still they can't subdue him until they come up with a plot. They dig a pit in the ground and they put some grass on it. And then they lure him, they push him towards that pit. He doesn't know that there is a pit there, so he falls into the pit. When he falls into the pit, one wicked man strikes him with the sword on his lip. Then they handcuff him. They put him on a horse. They take him straight away to the palace of Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad. As he was about to enter inside the palace, he sees one of the guards. He says, "Do you have water?" They bring him a cup of water. He was about to drink, but because of the blood, the cup was filled with blood. So they bring another cup. It's filled with blood again. A third cup, and he says, "As if I'm not supposed to drink water." Subhanallah. It was days before Ashura, but he's just one of the companions of Hussein, even though he was killed before Imam al-Hussein. He died while he was thirsty. He enters inside the palace. Ubaydullah is sitting on his throne. He doesn't say salam. So one of the guards say, "Why don't you say salam to the emir?" Muslim ibn Aqil says, "Ma huwa li bi amir." He's not my emir. I have nothing to do with this man. Ubaydullah laughed and said, "Whether he salutes me or not, he's going to get killed today." Umar ibn Sa'd, who was there, he says to Muslim, because they were distant relatives, "Do you have a will? Is there anything that I can do for you?" Umar ibn Sa'd. He said, "Yes, but I want to tell you in secret, in private." He tells him that the first thing that I want you to do is to send someone, Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, to Hussein. He's coming to Kufa. Tell him not to come. The second thing is, I have an amount of money. I have a wasiyah. He tells him in private, but then Umar ibn Sa'd straight away goes and tells Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad of his will. Then Ubaydullah orders the soldiers to take him to the rooftop of the palace, Qasr al-Imara. They take him to the rooftop. He tells the guy who was holding the sword and was about to strike him with the sword, he says, "Just give me a few minutes to pray, to offer 2 raka'at to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala." He prays hastily. Then he says to the man that if it wasn't for the fact that you might think that I'm delaying my salat so that I would evade imminent death, I usually don't pray hastily like this. Then he looked towards Medina. He saluted Aba Abdullah. "Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. Assalamu alayka ya ibn Rasulillah. Oh Aba Abdullah, the people of Kufa have betrayed me. I ask you to go back to Medina, not come to Kufa." And then he was struck with the sword on his head. And then they threw his body from the rooftop of the palace. And then they began dragging his body in the alleys of Kufa. Wa Muslimah. ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم والعاقبة للمتقين. Let's recite Dua al-Faraj together. So the Sayyid comes to the minbar. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Please stand up. Allahumma kun li waliyika al-Hujjat ibn al-Hasan salawatuka alayhi wa ala aba'ih